Good morning/afternoon, everyone. I'm excited to share with you today an in-depth look at social cognition and moral development. Our presentation is titled Social Cognition and Moral Development: Foundations, Mechanisms, and Implications. We'll explore key concepts like theory of mind, empathy, and prosocial behavior, and how these elements influence moral growth throughout different stages of life. Let's dive into this fascinating topic together. Social cognition refers to how we think about and interpret the thoughts, feelings, motives, and behaviors of ourselves and others in social situations. It's essentially about understanding how people interact and why they behave the way they do. On the other hand, moral development is the process by which we learn to tell right from wrong and make choices based on that understanding. To bring this to life, consider the heroic actions of Jonathan Tobón Ruiz, who at just 10 years old, saved lives during a gas explosion in Mexico City by calmly guiding hospital workers and even rescuing a baby. His actions show the power of well-developed moral reasoning and social understanding. In contrast, Jesse Osborne's story illustrates antisocial behavior. At age 14, he acted on violent urges without remorse, highlighting how deficits in social cognition can lead to harmful actions. These contrasting examples emphasize why it's so important to study how we think about others and make moral decisions, helping us to promote positive social behavior and better understand the roots of antisocial actions. Theory of mind, or TOM, refers to our ability to understand that other people have their own thoughts, desires, beliefs, and intentions that influence how they behave. A classic way to illustrate this is the Sally Ann false belief test. In this test, Sally puts a marble in a basket and then leaves the room. While she's gone, and moves the marble to a box. A child who has developed theory of mind will predict that Sally will look for the marble in the basket, recognizing that Sally holds a false belief about the marble's location. This ability to attribute mental states to others is crucial because it helps us explain and predict human behavior. It shows that people act based on what they believe to be true, even if that belief isn't accurate. Understanding this is fundamental for effective social interaction. In infancy, we see the emergence of foundational social cognitive skills, such as joint attention, where babies share focus on an object with another person. They also engage in pretend play, which shows they can distinguish between what is real and what is make-believe. By the time children reach age 2, they begin to develop desire psychology. This means they can explain behavior based on what someone wants or desires. Moving forward to around age 4, children develop belief, desire psychology, a more advanced understanding that behavior is influenced not just by what someone wants, but also by what they believe, including recognizing that beliefs can be false. Underlying all of this is the growth of perspective-taking abilities, which are critical for comprehending others' internal mental states. This progression is key to how we come to understand and relate to the minds of those around us. When we talk about the brain basis of social cognition, we focus on what's often called the social brain. This includes specialized networks like the medial prefrontal cortex and the temporoparietal junction. These areas are particularly important because they activate when we try to understand others' mental states, such as during false belief tasks where we consider what someone else knows or believes that might be different from reality. The medial prefrontal cortex and temporoparietal junction are central to this process. They help us reason about thoughts and beliefs that aren't directly observable, enabling us to predict and interpret others' behavior in social contexts. Another crucial component is the mirror neuron system. These neurons fire both when we perform an action and when we observe someone else performing the same action, helping us with imitation and grasping others' emotions. This neural mirroring plays a key role in empathy and social learning. Finally, when these social brain systems show deficits, as we see in conditions like autism spectrum disorder, it can significantly impair an individual's ability to understand others' perspectives. This highlights just how fundamental these brain areas are for social cognition and interaction. Empathy has two important facets. First, cognitive empathy, which is our ability to recognize and understand what others are feeling. Then there's emotional empathy, which is the capacity to actually share in those feelings ourselves. These two work together closely with something called theory of mind, or TOM, which helps us interpret what others are thinking and feeling. When empathy and TOM interact, they encourage prosocial behavior. Basically, those voluntary actions we take to help others. Tom gives us the mental framework to understand others, while empathy drives us to care and respond compassionately. Together, they play a vital role not just in how we function socially, but also in how we develop our sense of morality. Without this blend, navigating social situations and making ethical decisions would be much more challenging. Prosocial behavior refers to voluntary actions like helping, sharing, and comforting others, all intended to benefit someone else. Research shows a positive link between prosocial behavior and theory of mind, with a correlation of 0.24 in children and adolescents aged 2 to 19. This means that as young people better understand others' thoughts and feelings, they are more likely to act in helpful ways. Even more significant is the connection with empathy, which has a stronger correlation of 0.36 in the same age group. This underscores how emotional responsiveness plays a crucial role in encouraging prosocial actions. Overall, these findings emphasize that both social understanding and empathy are key factors in promoting behaviors that enhance social cohesion and well-being. When we look at theories of moral development, there are four major perspectives to consider. First, the cognitive developmental theory, proposed by Piaget and Kohlberg, focuses on how our moral reasoning evolves through universal stages. It starts from a self-centered, egocentric viewpoint and gradually moves toward more principled and abstract thinking about right and wrong. Next, the psychoanalytic theory, introduced by Freud, emphasizes the role of emotions like guilt, which develop as we internalize societal and parental standards of behavior. Then, the social learning theory by Bandura teaches us that morality is learned through observing others, receiving reinforcement, and exercising self-regulation. It also introduces the concept of moral disengagement, where people find ways to justify unethical behavior. Finally, the evolutionary theory views morality as an adaptive trait that has evolved because prosocial behavior enhances survival and cooperation within social groups. These theories together give us a comprehensive understanding of how moral values and behaviors develop. Moral development begins right from infancy, where we see the roots of empathy and the earliest signs of conscience forming. As children grow, their ability to understand intentions behind actions and concepts like fairness becomes more sophisticated, along with distinguishing between different types of rules. Moving into adolescence, there's a significant shift as individuals start to develop a strong sense of moral identity. Their moral reasoning advances, allowing for more complex thinking about ethical issues. In adulthood, this moral reasoning can continue to evolve, often shaped by cultural influences and personal spirituality. Throughout our entire lifespan, there's an ongoing integration of cognitive, emotional, and behavioral aspects that work together to create a more nuanced and comprehensive moral understanding. This lifelong process helps guide how we make ethical decisions and behave in the world around us. Antisocial behavior and aggression arise from multiple pathways, involving a variety of factors. One important framework is Dodge's social information processing model, which explains how individuals who tend to interpret ambiguous social cues as hostile, what we call hostile attribution bias, are more likely to respond impulsively and aggressively. Then we have Patterson's coercive family model, which highlights how negative family interactions can reinforce and escalate misbehavior over time. It's also crucial to recognize that genetic predispositions don't act alone. They interact with environmental stressors, increasing the likelihood of persistent antisocial behavior. Given all this, prevention efforts focus heavily on early intervention, social skills training, and promoting positive parenting practices. Addressing these issues early on is key to stopping antisocial behavior from taking hold and becoming more entrenched. Recent meta-analyses show that both theory of mind and empathy are positively linked to prosocial behavior in children and adolescents. Specifically, the correlation between theory of mind and prosocial actions is about 0.24, while empathy shows an even stronger relationship at 0.36. Interestingly, age doesn't really change the connection between theory of mind and prosocial behavior, but it does have a slight impact on the empathy-prosocial link. The way these traits are measured also matters. Self-reports tend to reveal stronger associations than other methods. Additionally, cultural background plays a role, with empathy's influence on prosocial behavior being more pronounced in Western cultures. This points to the complex and varied factors shaping social development. Albert Bandura's social cognitive theory outlines a clear process for how people learn through observing others. The first stage is attention. Here, the learner focuses carefully on the behavior being demonstrated by the model, because without paying attention, learning can't begin. Next is retention, where the observed behavior is stored in memory, so it can be recalled and used later. The third stage involves production, meaning the learner actively practices the behavior and makes adjustments based on the feedback they receive. This step is crucial because it turns observation into real skill. Finally, motivation plays a key role. Encouragement and reinforcement help strengthen the desire to continue performing the behavior, making it more likely that the learning will be sustained over time. Together, these stages explain how observing others can lead to real and lasting behavioral change. To wrap up, it's clear that social cognition plays a crucial role in how we develop morally and behave ethically. When we look at theory of mind and empathy, we see they work together to encourage prosocial behavior, while elements like moral reasoning, emotion, and self-regulation shape how we conduct ourselves ethically. It's also important to consider cultural differences and how we measure these traits, as this helps improve both research and practical applications. For moral education, focusing on nurturing empathy, encouraging perspective taking, and creating positive social environments can make interventions more effective. Ultimately, our goal is to support individuals in acting with ethics and compassion throughout their entire lives.